So there won't be more slides probably for the rest of the semester. But I want to give a lot of demos and show how to get an app up and running live, how to structure an app, how to design apps. Talk about kind of a lot of higher level, somewhat low tech. I don't know, depending on how you look at it. We won't be messing with low level coding details for for this week. And then next week's I'll review. Next week might be mostly just Q&A. But I want to go over some more topics that are, I guess in my opinion, more fun, more exciting. Like, we do a lot of hard work in the low-level technical details, and this week is going to be, okay, what's the payoff of all that? What can I do now? In today's lecture specifically, we'll talk about getting a domain name, deploying an app, getting a server, getting HTTPS installed, doing all that stuff, and I'll go through a live demo for that. Yeah, thank you, Struggling Through Life, for the reminder on that one. On the video title. So with that, I think I've showed this before, but always worth showing again, is logging into a remote machine. We'll do a lot of this today. Logging into a remote machine and then updating this website. If I go to my directory, pull, and then I'm using PM2 for this. PM2 restart app. Oops. I usually don't type in the command manually. I forgot what I named my app. And then with that restart, so I should explain actually what I did there. So I already pushed the code from my laptop to GitHub. I pulled the new code. That shouldn't surprise anyone. And then PM2, this is software that I'm using to run my app in the background. So I could do Python 3 CC312 app. This is how you would run an app. This is how you're testing your apps and everything. But as soon as I close this window or log off of the server or restart my machine and lose that SSH connection, I'm going to lose my app. My app shuts down. I can't have that. With Docker, we have Docker to do this for us. Docker's running those containers in the background. This course website, it's not set up to use Docker. I'll have to migrate it someday and run some, get some Docker in here. But I'm using PM2 to solve that problem in the meantime. PM2 is going to run that app in the background. So even when I log off, even when I close this window and sever the SSH connection and everything, I'm still running that app in the background. I can see it along with a bunch of other stuff. Oh yeah, it's just going to show up as Python though. That's right. It's not really going to tell us much stuff. But anyway, that updated the site. It's live. You can refresh. And we have the presentation details here. So the presentation is going to be... Oh, let me get rid of my cursor on there. The presentation is going to be in 3 parts. This is the final video. It's meant to be that final presentation. These are the requirements that I would have if we had a live presentation. For better or worse, it has to be a video. I do think we lose some experience, that speaking to a crowd experience. But it is what it is. Maybe, I suppose I could have a stream where I play all the videos, but I don't know. I think that'd kind of be silly. But these videos have 3 requirements to them. So this is different than your other videos. It's 100 points for each stage. I outlined that somewhere. I think it's in might be in the syllabus. Huh, maybe I don't outline that. Did I just talk about it? I do it for the homeworks right here. Yeah, the 3 phases in presentation are equally weighted. So there's 4 parts, and then each one is 9 points. 9 percentage points each. I did consider Zoom breakout rooms. I did consider it. There's a lot of course, logistics that go into it, and I don't know. I ultimately decided against it. It's it would be a bit much, and I had to decide if it would be worth it to do that, to do all the scheduling, find times when each team can do that, which would probably just be the lecture, the original times that we would have had. And then do I invite the entire class into the Zoom meetings, which I probably would to simulate that, but I don't know. And then what do we do about technical difficulties? Someone's internet isn't working at that time. We do have that timing thing where everything with the course is delivered asynchronously right now, where nobody has to be in a certain place at a certain time, and that would add that requirement. They're just, I don't know. I ultimately just said it's not worth it. So we're going to do the video submission, and yeah, it's easier to do a video. You can do a video on your own time and then upload it. You do lose that live. That is the advantage of having a presentation, is you have to talk to a live audience. But you know what it is. It is what it is. I've said this before, but it's the one aspect of the course that I'm fine if it goes away. It's not that presentation experience isn't part of the course per se. It's just that this course offers a nice opportunity to give you that experience, but it's not part of the learning objectives of the course at all. So that's one thing that I'm comfortable just cutting. Same with the front end stuff. If you read the course description, I explicitly wrote in the course description. Did I paste it here? Yeah. I explicitly wrote in the course description with a strong emphasis on server-side code and functionality to emphasize that this is not a front-end development class. So same thing there. Front-end development isn't a learning objective of this course. That's another thing that I'm comfortable cutting, because it has nothing to do with the course as it's defined. So it's just a few things I'm comfortable cutting. Since the video is part of the project, is it worth separate points or just required? I see. Yeah, and stage fright and stuff. But that's part of an academic environment. As much as you think there's a lot of weight on this, it's really a low stakes environment. The worst that can happen is you're going to feel a little embarrassed. But when you go to like a job interview, there's a career on the line at that point. So we want you to get that stage fright in an academic setting where it's all nice and cushy. So you can get over that stage fright, you can get more experience, so that job interview isn't as tough. When you might have a panel of, actually that's pretty uncommon, but you're going to have at least somebody there drilling you with questions, and you got to perform live on the spot. So that's why we like getting you that experience. PM2, you can specify the interpreter. So when I first ran, the very first time that I ran PM2 start this, I would do -- interpreter equals Python 3 and specify the interpreter. Then it works with whatever interpreter you give it. It'll do Python 3 CSE 312 app.py instead of Node. Node is just the default. If you don't specify an interpreter and it can't identify the interpreter by the file extension, it'll use Node by default. But it's by no means, it's just general, I don't know the name for it, but run processes in the background kind of thing. What is the word for that? Process manager? Production process manager. Hey, all right. For Node.js, but usable with others. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The video presentation is going to have 3 parts now. The first part, demonstration. This is what you did for your other videos. You should be experts at this. Show off your app, walk through it, and show off all the features. All 5 bullet points. Nick and I will be looking for all 5 bullet points as we watch these videos, and make sure you have all those in your demonstration. So you should show off all that functionality. And this part of the video, just like the other one, should be, I don't think I explicitly said it in the other ones though, should be directed towards a non-technical audience. So somebody just curious about your app, wondering about it, show off your features, show off what your app can do, and really, why should a user use your app? What can they do with your app? And they should understand all that. They should be like, okay, if I use your app, if I go to your site, this is what I'm getting. Got it. That's what your demonstration should show. Oh, I can send DMs to my friends. I can like and follow posts and users, things like that. All that functionality. Next, the software architecture. And I recommend, I mean, you don't have to, as long as you have these three things, we're going to look for all these requirements. But I recommend doing it in these 3 parts. Start with the demonstration, and then have, say we're moving to the software architecture portion of our presentation. Then go to the software architecture, and then say, hey, we're moving to the reflection part. The transitions can be smoother than just saying you're transitioning, but I recommend just chopping your video into 3 parts and delivering it in 3 parts. Anyway, software architecture. Describe how you built your app. What frameworks did you use? What libraries did you use? How did you get the technical aspects working? This shouldn't be a low-level code explanation. You should definitely not be walking through your methods. You really shouldn't even be showing code for this portion, but explain how the pieces of your app work together. If you have 3, 4, 10 separate modules that all communicate with each other, what does each module do? What's each module responsible for? What are the endpoints, the paths of your server? What are the, if you have WebSockets too, what are the WebSocket endpoints? What WebSocket messages get passed? What are those, what database did you use? And what's stored in the database? All those details that could be shown in like a block diagram kind of format. All those details should be there. This should be directed towards a technical audience, somebody with software experience. So if any one of your classmates watching this, they can watch this and understand what you did and how you did it. And if this is a developer at least familiar with the frameworks and libraries that you've used, they should be ready to contribute to this project. If this is an open source project, you have a public repo and you're inviting other people to work on it, somebody watching this section of your video should be ready to jump in and add features, create pull requests, and work on your project like that. And then last, the reflection piece. This is just reflecting, your team reflecting on the experience of developing this software. What was painful about the process? What was pleasant about the process? And probably most importantly, what would you do different if you started this project today? What frameworks were great to work with that you want to use again? Where were all the unexpected difficulties? Were those difficulties strong enough that you would change your architecture and change how that works? Would you change your features themselves based on that, based on those changes, based on those difficulties? Or is there just something that was very difficult and then you found out what the issue was, and then knowing that issue, it wouldn't have been a difficulty, but something that you learned throughout that process that made it, that you had to know to be able to get that working that you didn't really know at the beginning of the semester. So all those kind of specific details, working with this framework, this was an issue, and we had to figure that out. This portion of the video should be directed at your past selves. So if you got to go back, if you and your teammates got to talk to your team, talk to yourselves, right during that first meeting when you were first starting to work on the project and discussing things, what would you tell yourselves? So when you're having that first conversation, should we use Node? Should we use Python? What database should we use? During those conversations, if you could go back and talk to yourselves during those conversations, what would you warn them about? What would you say? No, don't use SQL, use Mongo. Like, what would you, this part's tough to work with Docker. You're going to have some integration questions there. Make sure you're thinking about this issue, because in phase 3 we had to redesign everything because we did a lot of code that we had to throw away because it wasn't compatible with user accounts. Anything like that. What would you tell your past selves to be able to work on this project? Does each person have to speak? No, but I'll talk about that in a second here. Hardest part of the project is I don't have that much time for it after doing the homeworks. Yeah, I mean, there's not much I can do about that. The course is chopped up into 1 week. Like, you have at least 1 full week of just focusing on the project. But yeah, before that week, Because I would like for everybody to spend that whole like 3 weeks, however much you have between project submissions. But yeah, with the homework, I realize that's tough. But part of that, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a good option for that. Like, I'm not gonna cut homeworks for that. But I would probably sooner lower the project requirements to focus on the homeworks. I think the homeworks are more of the benefit of this class in terms of technical details. I'd say the project, if I were to guess, the project, you probably spend most of your time reading documentation, which is a great skill to have. It's excellent to get practice with that. But there's no specific thing that I need you to get out of that. And the way teams will divide up the work, each teammate is going to get a different set of experience. They're going to have a different experience. So there's no real consistency in what each student gets out of doing the project. So that's probably, for those inconsistencies, I'd probably cut back. Somebody's going to learn a lot about Docker. Somebody's going to learn a lot about databases. Somebody's going to learn a lot about web frameworks. But there's nothing you're all learning about. Anyway, if a team didn't finish all 5 features, what happens? I mean, show off what you got. I'll grade the demo separately, and I'll have to make those decisions. Those will be tough ones. I'd say for the video, as long as you mention, hey, here are our 4 features, we didn't get the 5th one, then in Word it, you can word it a little better. You can be like, we were going to add DMs, but the next feature we would add to this project is DMs. You can word it in a way, because you might want to show, what I recommend is spending a good amount of time on this video. And this is something you might want to show potential employers, this video. So try to not make it sound like a course project. But you could say the next feature that we will be developing is direct messages. And this is where it's going to go. You're going to be able to click this button and send a direct message to a specific user. So if you didn't get all those features, at least mention them, but mention them in a way that doesn't make it sound like a course project, or a way that it does. That's fine. And speaking of showing this to employers, if you record, I recommend recording each section separately too, and maybe upload just the demonstration software architectures, or even just the software architecture video separately. So if you want to show employers, hey, check out this software, this is how it's all designed, and just show them that portion of the video, do what you can to leverage this as much as you can in your job searches. If our team didn't, will we get phase 2 grades before the phase 3 deadline? Yes. I don't know how soon. Actually, phase 3, that's 2 weeks away. Yeah, you'll get it with a decent amount of time. So I did a lot of phase 3 grading over the weekend. If you go to your new site, some of you have your new version. There are an unexpected amount of Docker issues. Some of them are silly, like a good number of teams just don't have a Docker Compose file. But some other ones, if you do have a Docker Compose, you still might not see your app because there's still some issues. Some of the Docker Compose files were just completely wrong and incomplete, like the team just ran out of time. But the apps are deployed. Nick's going through the apps and doing a lot of grading. He started a while ago. I just got the apps that are deployed up and running yesterday. So he's going through the deployments, testing them, looking at the features. So that we are well underway with the process of phase 2 grading. But we still have, there's just a lot of work to do with those. We still gotta go through all the reports. That always takes a while. So we are getting there. We're well underway. You can get a decent idea if you go to your URL and your app is there and it's working. You're probably going to have a pretty good grade. And going through individual grades, that usually takes a little bit. But I'm hoping to get that done before the weekend. I'm hoping to get that done this week with both of us. Nick's killing it. And then I should be able to go through the individual grading and any tough calls that have to be made. I feel like there's a lot of issues with Docker throughout the projects. Yeah. Next time, there can be a day or two, maybe a separate video on how to get them set up. I'm kind of mixed on this because I feel like I spent 2 full weeks of lecture talking about Docker. When I got rid of the front end, the front end to the SQL, I spent that entire week talking about Docker Compose and setting up databases. So part of me wants to say, yeah, there's a lot of Docker issues. I got to spend more time on that. But then I remember I spent at least 2 weeks talking about Docker Compose, another week talking about Docker. Like, how much more do you want? I mean, at some point, students just aren't going to pay attention. A lot of teams use things like Postgres and Redis, systems that I didn't talk about, which is fine. But when they're not working, like, just use the template setup that I gave you. And, a lot of teams just didn't do that. The teams that used MongoDB and MySQL with the setup that I showed in class, those were the ones that were up and running in seconds. More in-depth video on how to set it up. I mean, we can talk about that. Let's talk about that during Q&A. Jeez, 23 minutes. I gotta start going through this demo. Having Windows 10 Pro really helped. Or having Linux or Mac helps too. Windows tends to get in the way. That's why when I do Docker on this machine, I go into my Ubuntu here and show it there. I didn't even bother trying with Windows with all the issues that I hear. I didn't even attempt it, to be honest. Finally, the submission is just a link to the YouTube video. But there will be individual grading for this phase of for this video, just like other phases of the project. So I know with videos, it's very common to have like the video person, like the one person on the team who does the videos. Don't do that for this presentation. This is a lot of work. If you're dumping an entire quarter of the project onto a single teammate, just don't do that. So keep filling out the meeting reports. And with the meeting reports, even if there's no meeting that you had, you can still fill out that form to use that as feedback to say this person did nothing, this person did a lot of work. I still look at those even if there's no meeting attached to that submission. So even after the video is submitted, if you want to fill out one last form, just to say if somebody fell off the face of the earth, submit that in a form, I can take a look at it. I will take a look at the meeting reports and do the same individual grading for this video as I do for the other ones to make sure that one person just isn't getting stuck with the video and everybody gets the points for that. Even if not everybody, so getting back to the question in chat, not everyone doesn't have to talk in the video, but everybody should be contributing to the video in some way. So if you want to write up the software architecture part, write up a script for someone to read, maybe make some slides. For the software architecture especially, some slides can go a long way. Just a couple of slides showing the diagrams of the software can go a long way. If you want to record the demo and then somebody else does the voiceover, and especially the reflection, the whole team should be involved in these reflection discussions, making sure making sure everybody's active in those meetings. Have a Zoom meeting and everybody says, go around and everybody explains something, comes prepared and says, yeah, this part of the project, I really had a tough time with that. Somebody can be a scribe and annotate that. So there's a lot of tasks that need to be done aside from physically recording the video and talking in front of a camera. That's actually, in my eyes, a small portion of the actual work that goes into this is the actual recording. If you're the person doing the recording and you have scripts from all your teammates and a walkthrough, like for the demo, click this, then say this. If you have all that in front of you, the recording itself isn't too bad. But generating all that content, what are we going to discuss? What are we going to show? What are we going to do? Don't just say, hey, you're doing the video, just handle the demonstration. If you give that person some outline, here's how you can demo everything. That goes a long way. So I'll be looking for all that in the individual reports. It's easy after phase 3. I know what happens. After phase 3, someone submits that form and everybody just scatters and the team disappears. And then the one person who cares most about their grades, they're the ones who end up doing this final video. That's how it usually happens. So to prevent that, I'm looking at individual grading. If you're the one person who's doing the video and you do a somewhat halfway decent job, you're getting all the points and everyone else is tanking their grade. So just a heads up on that. For those of you who are presumably the 21 of you still showing up to lecture live, or if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're still consuming content from this course, lecture content, you're probably the ones who are likely to get screwed on this. So just giving you a heads up, you have this outlet. I don't want to see anybody get screwed on that, especially during finals week. You have a lot of other things to be thinking about. Make sure you're distributing this workload properly so you can all be thinking about your other final exams. If you distribute this workload properly, this doesn't take very long. An hour or two, maybe. I don't know, I'm estimating, but not too long for each team member to be able to do this. Maybe more than an hour or two, but significantly less than if you don't divide the work. Okay, so let's get into this. I spent way more time than I thought going through that, but we do have 2 weeks to get through a bunch of kind of softball topics, so that's fine. Discord recording, that's fine. Yeah, record. Yeah, go to Discord recording. Have your whole team there, and then everybody can share, especially for the last part, the reflection. I almost made it a requirement, but I held back, that the reflection, there should be some reflection from each team member. Everybody's going to have a unique experience that they want to reflect on, something that they would tell their past selves instead of having that as a team. I ended up leaving it worded as a team for the requirement. Yeah, run OBS, capture perfect device. People can make the script right, yes. What is the total registered class size? 100. We started with 100. We've had a handful of resigns, but not too many. What happened if our project is really simple that it takes less than 5 minutes to demonstrate? I mean, this whole video can be 5 minutes. I don't have any length requirements. I've never had length requirements on the videos. If you can get all the details that you need on all 3 parts of that, if you can get it all done in a minute, I don't care. As long as you have those requirements there. This isn't an English class where I'm going to say it has to be 5 pages. I'm saying you have to communicate. You have to effectively communicate all of the requirements in that document. I don't care how long it takes. 100 and only 20 minutes. 20 in lecture, yeah. I mean, some of them are, yeah, probably, yeah, one of those is me, I think. Do I count as a viewer? But anyway. My optimistic side says it's 10 in the morning. Maybe they want to sleep in and they catch up on YouTube. But I also have a good amount of evidence, especially going through phase 2 grading, that that's not the case, that they just don't care about their grades. I mean, and we have a lot of this with moving to online only. A lot of students are just unmotivated right now. And which is really unfortunate, and especially because there's not really anything I can do at this point. If you're not watching lecture, you're not, and I assume you would watch lecture before checking Piazza. If you're not doing either of those things, I don't have any way to reach those students. I could blast an email to the class, I guess, but it's kind of a crappy situation. So let's unfortunately they're just tanking the grades. It is what it is. So let's show how to how do you know who's talking again during the video? I feel like I just spent way too much time talking about that. We don't have all 100, but I'm obviously not going to share specific details. We only lost a couple due to resigns. Though, hey, so I am logged in. And hopefully I went through here fairly quickly and to see if I have any personal information, some PII that's going to be displayed. I don't think so. Hopefully, I'm not wrong on that. But I want to show how to deploy an app, and I'm going to go through some of my personal accounts here. So hopefully, there's no way for you to hack into me. But from what I show, you shouldn't see any passwords or anything like that. So the one thing I want to show, this is my Digitalocean account. Personally, I like Digitalocean, but AWS is just fine. Microsoft Azure, Heroku, there are plenty of hosting services available out there. I like DigitalOcean mostly because it stays out of my way. I have a personal preference when it comes to any software or technology. I want frameworks, I want libraries, I want services that stay out of my way, and DigitalOcean does that pretty well. So if you do want a lot of features and a lot of the setup being done for you, there are other options. AWS will do a lot of stuff, extra stuff for you. I just want something that stays out of my way. DigitalOcean will give me an instance, and I can SSH onto it and have root access and just do whatever I want with this presumably container. I haven't looked too deep to figure out exactly how they have it set up, container or virtual machine, whatever it is. But I just get root access with SSH. That's all I've ever wanted. I just want a machine that I have complete control over. DigitalOcean gives that to me with a really easy setup. It just creates the instance, gives me SSH access, done. So that's all I want. And if you create an instance, you can go all the way down to $5 a month. So I'll track the cost of this as I go through. $5 a month. If you want the lowest tier thing, which if you're just deploying one app, that's all you need. I only have the $10 a month one, and I'm running all 27 projects, or at least I will be once they're all up and running. CSE312.com and like 4 other apps that I used as examples that you've seen a lot of them. I'm running about 30 apps. And, I'm starting to hit the top end of the resources. Most of those apps don't get a lot of visitors, so there's not a lot of load on that. But running all those Docker containers, just storing all those Docker containers when they're, more than a gig a piece, this is still doing fine for me. So $5 a month is going to be fine for anything you're doing until you get a lot of users. And at that point, $5 a month probably isn't that big of a deal for you. You can upgrade. But $5 a month, you can get a machine that works for you. So with mine, I have one droplet. I actually want to add another one, which I might do during a Q&A or maybe later this week. Yeah, and with all those things, my current usage is only $10. So I'm spending $10 a month minimum, and then if my usage goes over $10, I have to pay more. But that usage, I don't recall. Excuse me. I don't recall if we showed it here, but that usage includes. Did I show the clicker game here? That includes a bunch of 116 students using. Oh no, using my deployment of clicker. For some reason, the WebSocket takes a while to connect sometimes. I don't know why. Well, that's a bigger problem. I'll worry about that later. Anyway, it's a clicker game, but it sends updates to each user 10 times a second. I have it updating 10 times a second, sending the entire game state a big old JSON string. So I'm being pretty wasteful with my usage, and it's still, It's still fine. But the big thing here is this IP address. So I get a static IP address. This IP address is always going to point to my instance, and that's always going to be consistent. I'll leave this open. Maybe we'll debug that quickly during Q&A. So if I go to the other side of this is why I had to make sure my phone was on. Because I'm going to get duoed here. So make sure my phone was on and everything so we can get through this. Google Domains has been disabled. Oh, right. Password was changed. Oh boy. Let me think. I remember changing my password. Oh no. RIP lecture. I'm running like, I think at the moment 5 different sites from the same droplet, which is all stuff I want to show. I forgot my, so I can't use my we can't use our buffalo.edu with Google Domains. I forgot about that. So I use my personal account. Oh my goodness. Okay. In there. Okay. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sites, 8 domains anyway, and I have them all going to that same instance. So this is the new domain I got, jessehartloff.com. I mentioned jessehartloff.com during a 116 lecture. I mentioned this briefly a while ago in this lecture. I mentioned the domain name, and then I'm like, oh crap, somebody's going to go buy that right away. So I had to buy it during lecture. So I bought it, but I haven't done anything with it. So I want to show what we would do to set up a domain name. So I bought this domain name. I actually did do one thing just to make sure the DNS propagated in time before lecture. But you buy a domain name, and if you want to buy one, they are, I believe, $12 a year for .com right now. So tracking the cost, those are the only 2 things you'd have to pay for. $5 a month for hosting if you use DigitalOcean. Or you can use AWS free tier, which of course is free, or Heroku for free. They both have free tiers, so if you want to do this for nothing, go for it. The domain name, $12, so $5 a month and $12 a year, and that's your full cost of deploying a site if you want to deploy your sites. So the one thing you have to do in your domain name is point it to your server. So I have this server at this IP address. I have to go to DNS for my domain name. I'm using Google's cloud services for my DNS server. So when somebody requests jessehartloff.com, that request is going to go to one of Google's domain name servers, and they're going to tell you where to go with that entry. So I went here to custom resource records, pasted my IP address here, and clicked add, and that's it. So I need this domain name to be linked to my IP address. So when somebody does a DNS resolution, that domain name gets resolved to my IP address, and any requests for that domain name are going to go to my DigitalOcean droplet. So at that point, now if you go to jessehartloff.com, it's going to go to my DigitalOcean account. The way I have my redirect set up, I didn't even know that would happen. It's actually getting redirected to cowpuncher.com because I don't have anything hosted, nothing listening for jessehartloff.com on my server. And I'm running so many apps that it just goes to my default app, which is cowpuncher.com, which I don't know if I have anything running at the moment. I think I took down the live version. I think that just points to nothing. Oops. And then I get all these warnings because, nothing's set up. Okay, so already I have an instance running. I have a domain name, and that domain name points to my instance. So whenever somebody requests that, they're going to get my stuff, which is all pretty simple to set up. And I should mention, I'm using Google Domains, but anywhere where you can purchase a domain name is going to work for you. You purchase a domain name, they're going to have something set up for you to be able to point that to a specific server, and have you be able to update your DNS records to be able to have it point to that. A lot of places have hosting and domains. You can purchase both of them right there. And from my experience, they usually make it pretty difficult to separate the two. If you want to buy just a domain name and have it point to another server, some of them bury that feature because they want to sell you the hosting service. Google, they make it really simple, so I like that. That I don't have to use any Google hosting services. You could if you wanted to, if that's the way you want to go. But I don't have to. I'm not forced to. I can have this point to any IP address I want. It could be my home internet. I could have it point to that. That'd be, and it's very easy to do that. So let's get something running on this site. Let me resize this a little bit so I can switch between the, so I can switch between the terminal and the browser. And let's get something running. Actually, this is what I was thinking about for a while. I still don't have any, oops. I'm all over the place here. I still don't have a good idea of what to actually host here. Oh, I didn't mean to do .com there. You know what? Let's just point it to something that I already have running, because I never thought of a good idea. So let's point to something I already have running. How about Office Hours app? No, how about To-Do Scheduler? Towers I want to show later this week. So here's an app, To-Do Scheduler. It should be, you know what? Let's not do that. IntelliJ, stop. Slides. I want it so all I have is the two things that I want. Oh, I didn't move this all the way over. That's my problem. I moved it. Oh, come on. It's always the little things that snag me up. So if I look at my Docker Compose file, I can see that this is running on port 9006. So what I want to do is the part that we haven't seen. I have an app running on port 9006. Or CV. I just don't want to take the time to write a quick thing from scratch. I was kind of planning to do that, but I also thought we'd be at this point at like 10:20 or so. But I spent a lot of time talking about the presentation, which is fine because that's, what everybody's worried about in terms of grading right now. So 9006, right? 9006. So let's talk about the... Kind of upset with myself that I didn't get to this part sooner. But let's get to the Nginx side of things and start talking about what Nginx is. Nginx and Apache are the two things I want to talk about this week. Two of the things I want to talk about this week. So Nginx and Apache are web servers, and these are designed to serve up content, and they should be the first entry point into your app unless you have some other, something else working as the server. So our apps that we're writing, we're typically running on these higher port numbers. We can have an app that listens on ports 80 and 443. We could do that, but typically we're going to put Nginx or Apache are really the two choices these days, in to have those listen on ports 80 and 443, and then they'll direct traffic as appropriate. They can also do aggressive caching. They can give us performance improvements there. They can do DNS detection and blocking. They do handle timeouts. There's a lot of nice features. They are designed to handle that first. Kind of want to say line of defense, but that first request, when a request comes in, they handle that traffic. They can also serve static files, which we have seen briefly earlier. They can also host static files very optimally, which your web server that comes packaged with whatever web framework you're building isn't necessarily going to have the best features. They're designed to be web frameworks, to be able to build sites and add functionality. They're not necessarily the best web servers, even though we use those for development purposes and for hosting our apps behind a full-blown web server. So Nginx I have running on this system, and I have some configuration for each website. And I created this bare bones jessehartloff.com file where if I check this one out, what I'm doing is listening on port 80 for any traffic for this server, and I'm forwarding it to port 9006 on localhost. So with this, I deleted the WebSocket stuff. We'll still get something here though. So I'm going to listen for anything coming in for jessehartloff.com, and I'm going to forward that to port 9006 and get whatever's hosted on port 9006. So I have Nginx listening on ports 80 and 443, just 80 for this example so far, and then forwarding that traffic to a specific port. Oops. Finally got used to my keys being switched, and then I switched them to what I want. So if you look at CSE software, I have a lot of subdomains, and each subdomain is going to forward to a different port number. So each of your apps, like if you're team 3, I have that forwarding to port 8803. Actually, let me grab these so we don't have this issue. Does that cut the way I want it to? If I right click, yeah, there we go. So let me get those. Those are needed for WebSockets if you want to reverse proxy WebSockets. So I'm using this as a proxy server. Nginx is listening for all incoming communication to this machine, to this IP address, and then routing that traffic as needed, depending on what the server name is, what the subdomain is, and then forwarding that to the appropriate port. Then I have all different kinds of apps running on this machine. So if we go to jessehartloff.com, with vanilla HTTP. Actually, this isn't going to work, but we're going to be able to get that site. We would be able to get that site, but I have my server set up to not allow any HTTP traffic. So what we need here is to get HTTPS, and then I'll cut lecture after the HTTPS. If I do certbot with let's encrypt. So certbot gives us a really simple way to do this, to be able to get HTTPS for free. So certbot, if you remember all the pain of doing all the search stuff for homework 7, was it? Certbot is going to do all of that for us. I'm going to choose my web server. I'm going to choose my platform, and then it's going to give me the steps to go through. It's going to show me how to install certbot and how to run it. The certbot Nginx. Actually, do have to restart Nginx first because I never restarted it after I added that new configuration. So I have to restart it. Actually, wonder if that, yeah, it didn't. This is going to be a problem, isn't it? Let me get rid of my proxy pass. Let me get rid of my default server. Because that's going to cause some issues. Make sure I'm using HTTP. I don't know if it's going to work with my configuration. Anyway, let's give it a try and just find out. So I'm going to do certbot --Nginx. Help if I spelled it right. I forgot. I really mess with my certbot install to get that wildcard. To get my wildcard cert, I had to change a lot of stuff with certbot. So this should be really easy once we get it set up, installed and set up. But getting the wildcard, this is much more painful. It doesn't look too bad what I just scrolled through, but this sends you off to other documentation that you gotta go through. It's not the worst thing. Like, now that I've gone through the process once, it'd be a lot easier, but that first one is a little tricky. Certbot, you're killing me here. Alright, let's take it from the top. What is a wildcard? So with on CSE software, I have all these subdomains, and the wildcard is any subdomain of this domain, forward all of that traffic to me. Where with a regular cert, I'm only going to have, this one's only going to be valid for jessehartloff.com. I wouldn't be able to do cv.jessehartloff.com. That wouldn't get routed to me. Only jessehartloff.com. So if you want that wildcard cert that allows any subdomain, if you want any subdomain, you have to get the wildcard cert. Did I not do all of them? Yeah, didn't do the last update. Completely forgot I messed up my whole certbot install. So hopefully this works in the end. All right. Well, I'm calling it. What it should do is just work kind of magically. It'll generate a cert, sign it, install it in Nginx. It'll edit my my configuration files and add that cert. So HTTPS just kind of works. I might mess with that a little bit during Q&A, but at the very least you get the idea of what that should have done. Did not expect that one. It's always something obviously it's always unexpected, but it's always something I completely don't expect for the issues during lecture. But that's easy. I mean, you at least get the content there. That should have just worked. Just pretend it worked. And then after that, we'd have HTTP.